Hold this meeting to order.
I call this meeting to order. If we all may rise for a short prayer. Almighty God, grant us the wisdom to make those decisions that are in the best interest of all of our residents. May the Heavenly Father of us all bless those who have given the ultimate sacrifice and service to our nation, and may He watch over and protect our servicemen and women now guarding the gates of freedom. Salute to our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Statement of publication.
Now for a statement of publication.
Take notice that this regular meeting of the Mayor and Borough Council being held this 26th day of September 2023 has been posted and advertised in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca.
Here.
Conti.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Anoha.
Here.
Roberts. Zabrowski.
Approval of prior minutes of the mayor and council. At this moment, I'd like to motion to approve with subject to correction if necessary, the regular and agenda sessions of August 21st, 2023, and the regular and agenda and executive sessions of September 11th, 2023.
Second.
Councilpersons Anoha.
Yes.
Balca.
Yes.
Conti.
Yes.
Novak.
Yes.
Roberts. Zabrowski.
Yes. At this point, any proclamation or presentations? I believe we have a representative.
Tina Early from Jersey Central.
Tina Early from Jersey Central.
Good evening. How are you all tonight? I was asked to come tonight to talk about the streetlight updates that we've been doing here in town. We've been making some progress on Washington and Maine, but we had quite a few scheduled on Ernst, Washington and Maine yesterday, but because we've been in storm mode since this weekend, particularly with the weather that has come in, and so they have not been able to be completed as of today because we're just wrapping up our storm mode today, actually. So we're going to work to get them back on to schedule and reorganize traffic control and all of that to be able to get to some of those busier roads. I've spoken with some of your residents and got a little more clarification on some of the areas, particularly on those roads that have been pain points. And so we're going to try to be focusing those areas along Washington, Ernst, and Maine, and then continue on with the rest that we have. The last time I was here, the Sherwood Drive area, I had emailed you about that earlier. We're still working on that one as that was the area that had been impacted by yes, another underground utility coming in. And so we're working on trying to devise a broader plan on how to manage that. Most likely, if there's one bit of damage to the wire under the ground, there's probably several in that area. And so we're looking at a longer term plan of trying to replace that wire underground so that we're not just putting one patch on it just to come back shortly afterwards to find out that there's another problem underground and start the process all over again. One downside to that is that does take us a lot of time to get through because we have to hire a third-party contractor to come in to do that work, and there's all the approval process, markouts, everything. So that is on our plate, and we are prioritizing that. It's just a lengthy process to get that type of extensive repair done.
Is there any kind of time frame on it that you could estimate? Is it an end of October activity? Is it longer before or after, you know?
I couldn't say, but I'm going to work to try to get that back to you. I was trying to get some more information prior to this meeting, but with everyone being in storm mode, it's an all hands on deck situation. And so I just wasn't able to get those answers for tonight.
And is there any way or any possibility to put any temporary lighting up, even sporadically in a spot? If it's a possibility, it would be great.
I'm not aware of that as being an option because again, the problem with
Yep.
is the lighting in the ground. So we'd have sort of the same issue.
I get it. I understand.
So there's no option for a solar powered light in places that are in need of that?
No, we don't have solar powered lights. Any other questions?
Jersey Central had done some work
Mm-hmm.
and they had not, they had taken
Yes.
care of a lot of the
Yep.
problems, but not in front of her house. And
There's restoration work that's
Yeah.
going to happen, and that involves an outside landscaper. And so we go back out, assess what needs to be done, give it to our third-party landscaper, and they come back and do the work. And I spoke with that resident as well and let her
you
know.
did speak
Yes, I
directly to
did.
her? Good, thank you.
Yes,
Because I know how frustrating it can be because I
yes.
spent the better part of a week trying to get through to Jersey Central and I was on hold probably 5 hours each day. So your automated system leaves a little bit to be desired, but okay. Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
you, just to be clear, you're going to be in contact with Councilman Conti with the progress and
Yes.
project plan and anticipated starts and.
Correct.
Yeah, I know. I saw your email. I appreciate it. We'll stay in touch that way.
Yeah, okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional comments from our council? Okay, any need for executive session? Not, I don't see any old business. And I don't believe there were any appointments set for today. On to new business.
Introduction of the following ordinance, ordinance number 32-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 2 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Sayreville to amend Section 2-51, Sayreville Economic and Redevelopment Agency.
This one is I'd like to hand over to our Admin and Finance Committee Chair.
Just have a question. I thought we wanted to add a residency clause too, in addition to the terms. Is that something we could do on the fly or do we get the minute?
We did, you may have not gotten the,
Okay,
There was an updated draft
it should be on here.
in addition to the residency requirements.
I move the motion of the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law and public hearing be held on October 10th, 2023.
Second,
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Yes.
Ordinance number 33-23, an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 8 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Sayreville to amend Section 8-3 peddlers and hawkers.
Again, on to our Admin and Finance Committee Chair.
Move the ordinance be approved on first reading, advertised according to law, and a public hearing be held on October 10th, 2023.
Second,
Councilpersons Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Novak,
yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Yes.
Public hearing on the resolution.
Public portion and approval on resolutions only.
Does anybody-
I think I have a hand up for in person. Do you have to state your name and you mind,
Thank you, Mr. Council
b- b-
President.
before you begin, just to set a reminder for our time slot for, I believe, 5 minutes
5 minutes, and it's going to be limited to the resolutions in this portion here.
and limited to the resolution portion only.
I'll use 2 minutes and carry 3 over to the next portion. On Resolution 2023-269, that is for a forensic auditor. I appreciate that that is being done, but the earlier discussions talked about an investigation. That's the auditor for Sarah. Talked about an investigation rather than just the auditor. That's, at least that's what I understand and I recollect, and I think the mayor said that at the last meeting. We know there was some confusion with publishing these things because a bill hadn't been paid or something like that. At least that's what we were told. Is there going to be an RFP for an investigation? or just for the audit report? Because there are some, I mean, frankly, these things, these departments are audited every year. If we're going to find something that's amiss, it's not going to be in the audit. The auditor would have found that. If investigators come in and they have the authority to investigate things, contracts and approvals and other things like that, I'm pretty sure we might find something. At least recent history would indicate that we might find something. So that was discussed. And what's the status of that?
You know, from my understanding, I believe that it needs to be added to the agenda if possible. So perhaps
Okay, so that hasn't
that
dropped.
can be a portion of discussion.
We need
Okay.
to have a reso authorizing us to re-advertise.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I
Appreciate
appreciate
that.
that this is being done finally.
Again, thank you for that comment. I think I have another hand up if, or no, nope, sorry.
We done?
It's just on the resolution.
This is in regards to.
If you don't mind coming to the microphone if possible.
Let's make sure it's
Okay.
a resolution.
It's an issue
And just to clarify, this is only for the resolution portions only.
on the papers,
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there'll
this,
be- there will be
this whole
public-
session, or for what you're
there'll
doing
be
right
public
now?
comment, yes,
Yeah,
Your Honor.
just for the segment now.
Okay.
Anyone online?
I move the public portion be closed and the resolutions adopted on roll call vote.
Novak,
Yes.
Malka,
Yes.
Conti,
So I'm good with all. I'm just abstaining on, within the bill payments, 23-05115.
Anoha. Roberts. Zabrowski.
Yes.
We have two resolutions that need to be read in full. Resolution number 2023-270, resolution providing delegation to the Chief Financial Officer of the Borough of Saraville in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, with respect to the bonds previously authorized in the principal sum of $13,743,000 in order to comply with the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. Whereas the Borough Council of the Borough of Saraville in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey has heretofore adopted a resolution authorizing bonds in the aggregate principal sum of $13,743,000 to finance part of the cost of various capital improvements in the borough. And whereas the resolution provides for the aggregate principal amount of the bonds to be issued, the bond ordinance is being included in the bonds authorized, the maturity schedule of each such series of bonds, the average period of usefulness of the improvements or purposes being financed by each such series of bonds and certain other matters related to the bonds. And whereas in order to comply with the requirements of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, certain changes to the resolution may need to be made to reduce the aggregate principal amount of the bonds, eliminate certain bond ordinances, and adjust the average period of usefulness of the improvements or purposes and the maturity schedule for the bonds. And the Borough Council of the Borough desires to delegate to the Chief Financial Officer of the borough the authority to make such changes. Now therefore be it resolved by the Borough Council of the Borough of Saraville in the County of Middlesex, New Jersey, that prior to the distribution of the offering document and notice of sale for the bonds, the Chief Financial Officer of the borough is hereby authorized to reduce the aggregate principal amount of the bonds below $13,743,000, eliminate certain bond ordinances being funded with the proceeds of the bonds, adjust the average period of usefulness of the improvements or purposes being financed with the proceeds of the bonds based upon the remaining bond ordinances, adjust the maturity schedule for the bonds, and make such other changes as are deemed necessary in consultation with bond counsel and the municipal advisor to the borough in order to comply with the requirements of the code and for the interest on the bonds to be tax exempt from gross income of the holders, therefore under the code. Other than as set forth in section 1 hereof, the borough hereby ratifies in all respects all provisions of the resolution. Section 3, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Open to the public.
I'd like to open up this resolution up to the public.
Move the public portion be closed and the resolution adopted on roll call vote.
This is the public portion.
On just
This
this
resolution,
resolution.
pardon.
No, no.
Thank you again for your patience.
I second that, Mary.
Yep.
Thank you. Vince, yeah, Vince,
Vince did. Councilpersons Novak,
yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski. Resolution number 2023-271, be it resolved that the proper borough officials are hereby authorized to award a contract through NJ State Contract 17 Fleet 00819 for the purchase of SCBA equipment from New Jersey Fire Equipment Company, 119-131 Route 22 East, Greenbrook, New Jersey, 08812, at a total cost not to exceed $671,669.18.
I'd like to move this resolution to be opened up to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. At a previous meeting, the mayor had suggested that perhaps when things are put on the agenda, they're a little bit more descriptive. $671,000 for equipment. Can we have a little bit of a description? Is that a fire engine? Is that
That's for self-contained breathing apparatus. We're in a
Okay.
position where we're compelled to replace all of that for the fire
Very
department
good.
this year. 'cause
Thank you
it's-
very much. Appreciate that.
Any other public comments?
And I can add that,
Microphones.
the 671,000 is significantly lower than the estimated 950,000 we first anticipated. So an excellent job and for needed equipment.
No, nobody second.
You second?
Second. Thank you.
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Thank you. On to any correspondence, departmental reports for August 2023?
Just all those as listed.
I make a motion that the correspondence as listed on the agenda be received and filed.
Second that. And I also want to thank Heather Mayara from the Environmental Commission for all the work she's done. She was extraordinarily diligent and passionate on the Environmental Committee, and she will be missed, and I hope she will consider in the future coming back to work with us. It was a pleasure. I know I'm not on environmental now. Mr. Councilman Zambrowski is, would you agree with that?
Yeah, we actually, Heather moved out of town. That's why she had to resign from the position. But I agree, she was an extremely relevant person on our commission, and she's going to be sorely missed.
Well, thank you. So second,
Councilpersons Novak,
Yes.
Balca,
Yes.
Conti,
Yes.
Enoha,
Yes.
Roberts, Zabrowski.
Yes.
At this moment, we'd like to move on to our departmental reports for mayor and council. Starting with our administrative and finance chair.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to wish Tony Chakowski well in his retirement, and administration is very busy doing numerous things every day, juggling everything around. Finance is equally as busy. Finance is busy wrapping up the audit. We should be getting it real soon. And other than that, progress.
Thank you, Councilman. On to public and safety, Councilwoman.
I have a few general comments. First, I'd like to thank Don Riley for his service. Don retired as president of the Morgan First Aid, served 30 years on the First Aid Squad and 18 as president. So he'll be retiring. I also want to thank all the first responders who responded to the recent fire on Furman Avenue. Thank God that everyone got out of there safely, but I believe there's a GoFundMe page for the family. You may be able to find that online. I think Cerebral Cares has posted that if you follow Cerebral Cares on Facebook. I know there's been a lot of rain and some flooding reported. Is anyone here from Yulnar Avenue today? Ah, okay, good to see you. All right, and I do know that we have some info for you. I don't know if it's everything everyone wants, but I'll leave that for you later. So since they're here, I'll let them ask their questions. Thank you for showing up today. Okay, so we'll get to you shortly. Thank you. And I want to thank the business administrator for being so on top of that also, that issue. And I also want to let everyone know October 7th at Kennedy Park Boathouse at 11. It's a tree planting honoring Eli, who lost his life saving others in a drowning accident. His mother Elizabeth will be there, so if you can attend, please put that on your calendars. As for public safety, which I am the liaison for, I do have a report about the New Jersey State Association of Chiefs of Police, this word I have difficulty with, accreditation. So it looks good. They've had their inspection. They will find out in October if they have successfully achieved this accreditation. And being accredited, law enforcement agency represents a significant professional achievement by acknowledging the implementation of policies and procedures that are conceptually sound and operationally effective. This accreditation program is based on standards that reflect professional best practices. Once accredited, an agency will be reassessed every 3 years. This will be the 4th time we would get this accreditation. And since this has happened before, Councilman Zembrowski, thank you for having set that up and having the accreditation for the department while you served there.
That, and in addition, we also are one of the very few agencies in the state that actually have their dispatch, or we call it the PSAP, also accredited. So again, a very tip of the hat to our administration and the police department.
And thank you to you for your previous service. I do have the reports for the municipal court and the fire prevention, as we normally receive. And I do want to mention that we have something called the Pulse Program. And if you're not familiar, the Pulse Program is known as the Proactive Union of Law Enforcement and Social Work Experts, committed to enhancing the effectiveness of local law enforcement and its community relationships. In partnership with the Sayreville Police Department, Pulse is designed to assist in addressing the high volume of mental health and social service calls received by our brothers and sisters in law enforcement. There's a lot more about Pulse here, but I just wanted to give you the overview. We've been in that program for about 6 months now. And I was on a meeting earlier, and one of the significant statistics that was given to me was that the use of force is down in this past 6-month period since we've implemented Pulse by about 42%. So that's significant. It's going in the right direction. So it seems like a very successful program. And I am very proud of the police department for putting that program into place. And I'm sure Councilwoman Novak will also agree with that. Some of the things also, there's a lot that to catch up on, so I'm sorry if this is a little long. Municipal Alliance is another part of public safety. I attended their meeting today, and they're doing great work. Elise that runs the Municipal Alliance is a genius at getting grants for things. And this is an alliance with the school system for drug prevention, and some of the programs that were successful include Forest Friends, awareness and education, and they are very proud of their Willoughby program in June, which is a 3-day with parents and children. There's also the Elks Path to Leadership program, Heroes and Cool Kids, and a vaping, the smoke screen presentation that's given to the kids in high school, and at certain events that we're going to have, that we have throughout the year as community outreach. So they're doing a lot of really good work in the Municipal Alliance. And you think that was enough? So there are some very nice, good things going on. I do have some news about the last planning meeting. If that's not covered later, I'd be happy to share some of that publicly at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. On to Public Works, Councilman Conti.
All right, thank you. I too want to thank Don Riley and wish him well in his retirement. Been with us for a very long time, and thank you for your service. Heather as well. I know I've run into Heather a couple of times in her engagement, and I know she's been a real workhorse for us, and I want to thank her and wish her well. Also in Department of Public Works, Tony, I want to thank him for his service and wish him well in retirement. Also, I know he is leaving the department in good hands, so I want to congratulate Craig Fallon and Chuck, his last name I never will get, but Wojciech. But everybody knows Chuck. The newest supervisors in the DPW department. So I'm very pleased to see that, to see the guys getting promoted, moving up the ranks, which is great. I'm going to be working more closely with Craig on, I think, doing a better job with the spot fixes in the roads and paving those and filling in those spots as opposed to just filling a hole and moving on. I'm going to work more closely with Craig on doing that a little bit better. Just because we can't pave every road completely that's out there, but I think we could do a better job at fixing them, doing the patchwork, really cut it out, fill it so that it's not just a bumpy road of filled in holes. And I definitely will be working with Craig to improve upon how we do that. I think that he's committed to fixing our roads in a better and improved manner. I certainly get that from him just in a few conversations. But I definitely want to work more closely and hold them accountable to do a better job filling our roads in the interim while we wait for more roads to be paved. So I welcome them to the rank of supervisor and congratulate them as well. Let's see what else. So the one thing that I did want to address and I want to ask about is I've been out doing a lot of walking lately around town, and and I experienced some of the trouble spots that our residents do as well. And I know I touched on it with you, Jay, but I want to see what we can do to get out in front of some of these things, namely adding more traffic lights to Main Street where all the development is going on. The development is happening. At some point, it'll be there. And I know it's a county road. I don't know if there are plans within the plans to add more traffic lights up and down that, why the townhomes are. I mean, it's terrible. Bamehurst, it's terrible getting out of those roads. I mean, you could forget it at rush hour. You might as well, dig a tunnel the other way and try and get out there. I do think that we need a couple more traffic lights on that road so that the residents getting out can actually get out. I mean, because honestly, you could wait a long time. And I know there was unfortunate incidents on Main Street as well in the past. I think that only puts our residents at greater risk. So I don't know if it was in any of the plans where we've said we're adding a traffic light, but if we are not, I'd really like to get out in front of it and go through the proper process to start considering that, because I know it takes a long time to do that. I know it's not our decision, but I think we need to involve the county, because if we wait and say, well, let's just wait and see, and then these complexes are completed, and all of a sudden you've got 500 extra cars out on the road, and then it'll take even longer to do it. So I'm hopeful that we can get out in front of it. Glenn, I don't know if it's something I tee up with you and we talk about it, or we work together with Jay and we push something forward. But I think unless we have a plan in place to address that now, it's going to be a nightmare. It's going to be even bigger nightmare than it already is. So that's the thing. I just want to see if you're on board with me to push something forward and have that kind of conversation. I'm sure Jay could arm us with any facts and details that we would need to take that to the county. All right. Okay. I appreciate it. I think that'll go a long way. Tina, thank you for the update on the lights. I'm going to chat it up with DPW, Public Works, to see about the temporary lighting. I know you're not able to do that, but they may be able to help us out with that. with some of the temporary lighting in certain spots where it's feasible. It's not going to be feasible everywhere, but perhaps we can get some temporary lighting out there. Let's see, aside from that, I think I'm all set. I'm going to just say progress at this point. So thank you.
Thank you for your report, Councilman Conti. On to Recreation, Councilwoman Novak.
I'd just like to say, job well done to Heather and Tony. Sad to see them go. Tony, enjoy your retirement. Special thanks to Don Riley. I had the pleasure of riding on an ambulance with him more than once. He gave 30 years to Morgan First Aid Squad, and very few people realize the commitment. Everybody that volunteers in the town is wonderful service, but being on the first aid squad or the fire company means that a lot of your personal events in your family and sleep time and everything else is put on hold while you do this constantly. It's not something you can plan. It's just something that happens, and their families serve as well as them. So to his wife and his children, I want to thank them for all of their years of service as well. I expect, and the firemen, not only were they at Furman, but they were actually over in South River too. So they had a really long weekend. If you see what I mean about if they had anything going on with their families, it was just didn't happen. So, okay. Okay, Blast from the Past car show. If anybody wasn't aware, it was supposed to be last Saturday. I thought I'd be coming in here telling you what a wonderful event car show was and Saddle Day was. Instead, I'm just reminding everybody that it will be this coming weekend. The Blast from the Past car show will be in Berks Park, and from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Oh, excuse me, it's Kennedy Park. Okay, Sayreville, I thought that was Berks Park. Okay, I'm wrong here. Sayreville Day is Sunday, October 1st, from 12 to 4 in Kennedy Park. There will be live entertainments, inflatables for the kids, crafting vendors, local businesses, nonprofits, food trucks, and voting for Show Us Your Sayable Photo Contest. The Hit the Bricks Fun Trail Run will be Saturday, October 14th. Please pre-register in advance at SayrevilleRec.com. All of the proceeds will benefit the Sayreville Brain Injured Children. Women's self-defense classes. It's a new class and it begins Saturday, October 14th. Pre-registration is required. I really have to commend the rec department. They're not just doing the same old things that have been done in years. They're coming up with new and innovative things, and I think this will be well attended. And of course, our pickleball courts. They began construction on September 22nd, and it says it will take about 2 to 4 weeks. Well, with all of this rain, I'm sure that's been lengthened to 3 to 4, but that is happening. So we're going to have a lovely pickleball court in town. And other than that, Mayor Progress. Huh? Oh, excuse me. That's right. I had a whole stuff. Okay, residential safety maintenance costs. This comes from my hat with being on the Office on Aging. If you or someone you know is in need of minor safety repairs to your home, please let us know. Repairs such as grab bars, handheld shower heads, railings, installation of smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, as well as fire extinguishers. This is a free program. It is being offered through the Residential Safety Maintenance Grant that is sponsored by the state, Middlesex County, and the Borough of Sayreville. To qualify, you must be a senior citizen, I qualify, and be a resident of Sayreville. Applications can be obtained at the office. Requests will be filled on a first come, first served basis as the quantities are limited. So if you know anybody, if anybody here, you know anybody that might be in need of this, it's really a good help, particularly smoke detectors, because a lot of us, you only needed one smoke detector in the house. And then it was one smoke detector on each floor. And now they want a smoke detector in each bedroom as well. So there's a lot of people that don't have that. And you might be able to get some help here in bringing your house, up to today's standards for the safety. Because those 7 people on Furman got out because their smoke detectors worked. So it's very, very important. And the new ones don't even have batteries. After a certain amount of time, they must be thrown out and a new one gotten. Because people were replacing their batteries year after year. Only the smoke detectors really didn't function that well anymore. So now they want you to just toss it out with the batteries or recycle it with the batteries. Thank you.
Thank you for that recreation report. Onto water, sewer, slash environmental.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, everyone. I have a very brief report for water and sewer. Our water and sewer department is actually unveiling a new logo for both its uniforms and the vehicles and equipment that you see out on the roadway. It's actually very clean and very professional. And I also thank our business administrator for helping with that. I just want to also, and I know we've been doing congratulations, but I've known Tony Jankowski for many, many years. I've worked with him on a number of projects in Saraville. We're going to definitely miss him. I look forward for and hope he has a great retirement. I know he's already got a new camper, so he's going to be out camping around, and I look forward to working with him actually at the Rib Pit at every carnival as well. And congratulations to Craig and Chuck, both great people that are going to do great jobs. Again, to Heather, good luck with your new home. We appreciate all your efforts throughout your time with the commission. And then finally, Don Riley. Don not only was a great volunteer, but was also within the supervision of the Morgan First Aid Squad as well, an elected official. He did a fantastic job for so many years, and I certainly miss him. But I do wish him luck in his retirement. I think in his new home right down in Florida. So good luck on all that. And again, I wish everyone the opportunity to come down Sunday for our Saraville Day. As Mary said, there's going to be a great deal of activities. It's always a great day. And the larger the crowd, obviously, the better time as well. And Council President, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. On to planning and zoning. Want to especially take this moment to thank our residents that took the time to join us in our most recent planning board meeting. I think tomorrow is our upcoming zoning meeting, and I believe Thursday is our meeting for Sarah. Regarding our most recent planning board meeting, I'm grateful for the comments on our updates. I think it was for the self-storage development on Journey Mill, and for the discussion that was had regarding the impacts and the concerns raised for environmental concerns and other things related. So again, I'm just grateful for those that came out to represent our residents and to make comments and to raise their concerns. And hopefully you were satisfied with the consensus that we made in that meeting. The reports have been approved, and we look forward to all of you being more involved and adding more comments. But so far, we believe that there's more progress with our boards when it comes to planning and zoning, and we're looking forward to more. Thank you.
If I may add something to that planning meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
So the planning meeting, this past one was really centered around a development that is going in on Journey Mill Road, which is right by Steiner Lake, right behind the Wawa, if anyone was interested in where that is. Just a couple of things, because a lot of information goes back and forth about planning, zoning, SERA. So let me let everyone know this is not a SERA property, which means they are not entitled to a pilot. It's a privately owned piece of property. Some of the questions, well, the variances that they had asked for were two simple variances, actually. And Jay, correct me if I'm wrong on any of the details, please. Where it's the had to do with the signage, 2 signs versus 1. And the other was because of sidewalk requirements, because it's a storage facility. You typically don't have a sidewalk into the garage piece that you walk into to store your items. So the sidewalk would be a variance for that kind of structure. So those were the 2 variances. Everything else was within the planning and zoning requirements. Some of the other questions, the original plan was going to be 46,000 square feet-ish. Now it's down to 33,000, so it's a smaller footprint. The pond and the frontage and the trees, that was something I was concerned about and asked about. So for many reasons, the pond is going to remain as is. The trees around the pond are going to remain as is. Not only for the way they look, but because they're on wetlands, so that won't be taken down. There's land behind the structure that's SED zoned, Special Environmental District. That's not included in this plan. They are working with the tree bank so that the trees that they do take down, they will be paying for or replacing. And the type of construction they're going to have is they have, what was the frontage total? 700?
700, they've got, I think, 200 disturbed.
So out of the 700 frontage, which includes where the guardrail is for the pond, over to the furthest, that would be the south end, is where they're going to open up and build their facility, and they're only going to use about 200 yards of that to start their building, and they're going to have an extra large driveway going into the back, so it's set back more. So there was a lot of interesting information at that meeting, including the fact that a lot of that property is wetlands, so they can't develop it anyway. So we're going to still see trees. It's going to be a smaller facility with 27 spaces. There will be no vehicle storage. And they will have, which I would disagree that they have to have, but they will have the required charging stations available. So it was a very in-depth presentation. And because it's such a important property, when you come into Saraville, everyone sees it. It's just good to know that we're going to still have that pond and trees for us. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you for the additional clarifications. Yep.
I have a question, and I don't think it was on this past planning board meeting.
Okay.
Jay, we just got planning board minutes, and I'm talking about putting houses up on Blue One Marsh Avenue. No. I'm gonna have to, I know it's down, you know. Yeah. I was reading it saying that it was approved, and they were saying that they weren't to have sidewalks and curbs.
There was an application in the Old Bridge section on John Street that was recently approved for subdivision for 2 houses. Maybe that's, the majority of the area does not have curb or sidewalk, so that waiver was granted by the board.
Without curbs, you know, the roads deteriorate so quickly.
Yeah.
It's almost ridiculous. And then the town will be responsible for fixing the roads and there's no curbs. Made a mistake in previous years. I don't think we should have done. The streets without curbs don't last very long. Once that is made, the developers are responsible for the roads.
I think that because of the fact that there were so many houses there originally, and the majority of them are now gone, there's very few houses. There was never curb and sidewalks. I think that's why the board decided to grant the waiver just based upon all the existing conditions.
And if I recall correctly, the width of the road also had to come into play.
It's a fairly narrow road as well, yes.
Because I mean, right now, that's all people down there complaining that they want long roads, you know.
Probably not in that area. If you would just probably mill and pave and just put it back the way it is when you do eventually do a project.
Thank you for the additional questions and clarification. I'm not sure if we had any additional reports for the mayor, but I guess at this moment we can extend our best wishes in regards to her. And onto our public portion. I see a few hands. Maybe we go with ladies first. Or
Yeah, I think these
ladies
our folks from owner. Yep.
My name is Kelly, and yes, Craig is a great gentleman. we're all from Ulner Street, and you're well aware of the flooding down there that we're complaining about.
And
that-
sorry, before you continue, maybe if you can assist us with your name and address
sorry,
and to keep in mind our 5-minute rule. Thank you.
Kelly Last, from 19 Ulner Street. I'm here with my landlord. Everybody else here, I believe, are homeowners, basically. But this goes to saying that, yes, our road definitely needs to be regraded and paved. And actually, I moved in closer to 30 years ago, but the road was done about 20 years ago. And at that time, a comment was made, this road's going to have to be done again sooner or later. At the top of our street, we don't have sidewalks. I think it's like 2 or 3 houses down. I see the kids, because my kids used to take the bus too. They walk up on the hill at the corner of Ridge and Ulner, and they're sliding down on rainy days onto the roadway. And yes, the road is all broken away there. Further down, the 2 family homes, we get it the worst with the flooding. Just with the past 2 rains we've had about 2 feet, 3 feet of water in our homes. One of the residents here had to replace their washers and dryers twice already after just buying new washers and dryers. There's a lot of residential trucks, trailers that you would put vehicles up on our streets. Lights going out on and off between 14 and 16. So it's just seems like Ulner Street, it's just the road and everything, it's not being checked on. Then nothing's being done. I know people have made phone calls in regards to things, even with zoning for certain things not getting done. We have one family on the road, they have 13 cars, and that includes 2 of their box trucks down at the end. They park on the yellow curb. Then they have the railing, that's yellow. That's where I guess they just assume the water will drain down into the woods, but when you got all those vehicles going around the bend, water ain't going nowhere but in our basements. I want everybody else to be able to have their turn to talk, because they are the homeowners, and, you know, I know they wanted me to start it off with everything. So who wants to come up next? We do have a sinkhole on our street, across the street from 19 Ulner, which is Steve. They just come in, they pack it with the blacktop. You know, I've seen them twice do it. It hasn't been investigated. It's like, do you look down in the hole to see why it's sinking? Like I heard on the news this morning in Hoboken, I believe it was, or New York. Last week was another one. Woman woke up this morning, you probably saw it on the news, with a 10-foot sinkhole in her backyard. You know, and that's what we're afraid of, that, you know, eventually it's right at his driveway and the road is cracking all around it. And yes, I believe Craig saw that day he was there, because I talked to him outside the house and he was right on it. As soon as we left the office, he went right down to Ulner Street. And he did do a couple things the following day down on the road. So I commend him for that. He was right on it. So, but with that said, if you don't mind, I'll let the homeowners now take it over.
Thank you.
I'll come up with you. Oh, yeah, okay. We're going to tag team here. My name is Sharon Atamonte. I'm at 19 Ulner Street. And along with what Kelly was saying, we have, and this isn't my first time of coming here, by the way. I'm about, I guess, 30 years ago. And at that point, of course, all of you weren't here. There's probably babies by then. And we came quite a few times, got nothing done. As the owner, that was before he owned, he's across the street from me. And he has a sinkhole in front of his driveway. And it's getting larger and bigger. Now that affects me, because if his house goes down, mine's going down. And so I'll let you talk about that, and then I'll come back. Also on our street, there were 2 families from, I think Kelly said 14 down, there's 3 families living in there. And I think that's against the ordinance. I think it's against the rules, because it's zoned for 2 families. Excuse me, I'm nervous. 2 families. And they just keep coming. The 13 cars that she was talking about, how can you have a 2-family house, say the most, what, 4 or 5 people, that's only going to be 2 vehicles and they're not all drivers. It's very hard coming around this curve from Forat because those
With all the
cars,
trucks and-
all
You
those
said,
trucks and
you
stuff
said
that are
you said
there,
that's
you
19?
can't see. It's a hazard, a terrible hazard. And I've been bringing this to the attention of
Angie.
zoning. And he knows about it, knows about the 3 family that we keep saying is there, and nothing's been done. All right, give them your
It
say.
says As long as they have the way in and out through the front and the back, it's for recreational use only. It's not.
I mean, we don't live in their house. We don't see them go to bed. We don't see them get up,
But we
but
see
there's
them
no
coming and going.
way that you're gonna have that many vehicles in a 2-family house.
That's too racist.
I have replaced dryers, washers, only in the last 4 months,
Three.
about 3 or 4
Main
months. I've
furnace.
replaced a furnace, 2 furnaces, hot water heater, washers and dryers, both for she and I. I mean, why is that acceptable here? We pay taxes, as everyone in Saraville does, but we're getting the SHT
And I have
end of it.
pictures as well. In front
Oh,
of
we
our
have
house-
pictures.
In front of our house especially, for some reason, it whirlpools in front of, you're 14, Steve? 16 and 19.
We're trying to create a clean record, so
if we
could just have one individual.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm done. You go ahead. Tell about how they're.
If you can also assist us with your name as well, sir, and your address if possible.
Sure, Steve Barrera, from 16 Yulna. I've been a resident there for about 20 years, and yes, it's a problem that I noticed on the first major rainstorm that we had. And yes, the street, I don't know, your report, you said you was going to let us know about whatever was found after they came and complained, but yes, it's the street going down from one end to the other. The street looks like it's got a belly right in the middle. So the water, when it rains too much, it goes on the side and then it goes over the sidewalk. In our, at least my house, I have a driveway going down to the basement and then the water goes over the sidewalk down to the basement and there's no stopping it. Yes, we have some woods at the end of the street. It doesn't take the water, it doesn't collect the water that well, I guess. And that's when it starts backing up into the houses. The further down you go, the worse it is. You know, I'm in sort of like in the middle towards the bad area. And yes, I've had numerous floods in my basement. You know, it's a very inconvenient, very bad. And it seems like no other street in the area gets flooded like we do. You know, it's pretty bad. The sinkhole that all of a sudden appeared in front of my driveway, yes, that was probably about 7 years ago. I did call the town, they came immediately. I did my own lookout. It honestly looked like a sinkhole. And it went in probably a couple of feet under the street, and it seemed to be nothing there holding the street. I was surprised, you know, it was still there. It was probably about 2 feet by about a foot, the initial opening of it. When you looked inside, it looked a lot bigger. So they came, they filled it up. Yeah, you know, I don't know what they did exactly. I wasn't there, but they seem to come back and keep repairing it, and it seems to be sinking in even more around the repair area. Other than that, you know, I called a couple of times about the light. There is a light pole between 16 and 14, I believe. It's been out for about over a year. It hasn't been fixed. I noticed there's another light on the street that's not working also. And there's a problem with parking all of a sudden that we're having now. There's a couple of houses that were sold, and one of them is the one where we believe there's, you know, it's a 2-family house. We do believe there's 3 families living in there. And that creates a problem with parking and, people that have been there for many years. You get used to a spot, we have plenty of room, not when there is an overcrowded abundance of cars in just one house. The commercial vehicles down the block, yes, that's a problem too, because sometimes they get parked over the drainage, and when it rains, the water really has nowhere to go. The top of the street, I've noticed for plenty of years already that it's sinking in at the very top of Ulner. And what is that road? On the top road? Ridgeway, right? Ridgeway and Ulner. That whole area is sinking in as well. So yeah, we do need something to be done about it because, it's, we see all the other streets around us, nice and paved, and especially when they did the, I think it was the gas lines, we're all patched up, but, our street wasn't repaved or anything, so.
I think, I definitely remember seeing some pictures that you're referring to, I think as early as July. Was it from, is Madam Wexler amongst you? I think that was the contact that was referring to some of the contacts, maybe one of your neighbors, but,
So let me get you updated on where we're at, because it's a big problem, and I understand that, and we collectively understand that. Months ago, after the first incident of the year with flooding, we sent DPW out there, because of course, we want to look at our stormwater system first, because if there's an issue, that's something we want to immediately address. So based on our examination, which I understand they ran the camera the length, our storm system on your street is functioning. The issue may be, because of where you're located, you're surrounded by county roads plus South Amboy's storm system, and there is some interconnectivity that goes on there as the water gets out of Sayreville and starts heading toward the river. In advance of this last storm, I did reach out to South Amboy Public Works and the County Public Works, both who went out there and made sure that there were no obstructions to their pipes to conduct the water. So that we've made attempts to address it in that particular fashion. And I've been working with Jay's office to try to get to the bottom of why all of a sudden is the volume of water that falls on your street not getting where it needs to be, which is away from your home. So, I mean, I have full confidence in Jay. We'll get to the bottom of it at some point. But I mean, he's had his guys out walking in the mud in the woods down there trying to figure out what the issue is. And we're working to try to get that resolved for you as soon as we can. As far as the commercial vehicle parking, that's a phone call tomorrow morning, as well as the potential illegal rental going on there. I'll be on the phone with code in the morning to try to get that resolved for you. And we will send DPW back out there tomorrow to look at that sinkhole. They may have to do a little bit of exploratory digging just to make sure that there's not something that we missed. And then we'll make sure that the hole gets filled into your satisfaction.
Okay.
and I guess from the repavement, I guess, Jay, is that set for this year, or is there anything we can do? Is it-
I think that it's on the Public Works Department radar. They're aware that there are sinkholes on a regular basis, so something that they do plan on doing in the future. It's not on your current list, but I know it's planned for the future.
Okay, so maybe
Maybe,
we're gonna be looking at 2024 then.
Drainage platforms, we noticed there's only 4 in our street. Our street is a regular, I'm sorry? Yeah, the catch, yeah, where the water goes, we only have 4, 2 at the beginning of the street and 2 at the end of the street. Maybe we have 2 more, I guess, I don't know. I noticed Scott has, which is the next block over, the exact same length as us, they have 10. 11, okay, all right. They have 11 of them, so maybe that'll help us if we can get more drainage on that street, from 4 to.
Yeah, I think the problem actually is the size of the pipes in the street. You have South Amboy water, county water from Raritan Street and Ridgeway from South Amboy draining to Ulner through the pipes on Ulner to a ditch at the end of the street that goes back into South Amboy, then goes into the South Amboy system, then back into the county system, then out to the bay. It's a very big area. The pipes probably are not sized correctly because of all the water that's going to them. I actually have a meeting tomorrow with the engineer from South Amboy because we think the problem is where it discharges at the end of Ulner making its way into the South Amboy system
Might not
and
be
whether
able
that system can handle it. So we're going to take a closer look at that.
Okay.
Right. And I guess just for
Just
clarification,
an
it
observation,
isn't,
that was,
yeah.
you know.
So I guess just to clarify, we did take a look at our pipes and, it isn't coming from the Sayreville end, but hopefully by tomorrow, we'll have more clarity on that.
Yeah, I think part of the problem also is the elevation. I think as you mentioned, your garage is below the roadway. So right.
Right.
So if the
But-
water backs up in the street, it's going towards your
That
garages.
unevenness from one, from one side to another, it's significant. It's, if it was nice and flat, I think the street will be able to take more
Yes,
water. But that belly that's on that street and it's from one end to the other, it's
Yeah.
really, I think the very next day when they came to speak to someone, I think the very next day they were measuring. And I happened to be there and they were like, wait a minute, it's pretty significant.
Yeah, I think if you look at the end of the street, there's a head wall and it goes into a ditch. And I think that
Yes.
ditch may be filled in. So the water's not able to go the way it's supposed to. And it's backing up, which means it's now coming out of the storm sewers instead of going into it. And it's
Right.
going to the lowest point, which are your
And it
garages.
starts backing up
Right.
on the street and, it's very significant. I took video last time and it looks like a river going down the street, it's
So
pretty bad.
I know we definitely made our own comments, but I think overall from your side alone, it's reached its 5-minute portion, if you don't mind.
Well, thank you very much. Jay, perhaps we can report updates on this.
Sure. Well, I think we'll have a better idea after we review the system and what the potential problems are tomorrow with South Amboy, then we'll have a better idea as to who needs to do what to try to resolve the problem. Yes.
Okay, we also have, okay. Let's take our folks who had their hands up.
Hi, my name's Jen Camporelli and I live on 169 Standiford Avenue. But right by, it's the same thing. It's basically, well, not flooding, but the street has been for like 23 years, where Miller and Standiford meet. It's terrible. Like the road's terrible. There's, my niece rides her bike. She fell in like the holes. At nighttime, our light, I call JCP&L, not that this is your fault, but for how many months now that our street light's out. And so now at nighttime, I have to use a flashlight walking the dogs because it's been out forever and the roads are not that, the road's not that great. So that's basically, that's just the road needs to be fixed. That's
Yeah.
basically it.
Standing for on a list, yes.
Well, I don't think, you're from Forest Avenue back, that toward the cul-de-sac portion or the cut through
yeah, where
portion used to
the-
be the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, so
Right.
Standiford actually got, Standiford did get paved,
Right.
but Miller, so I'm basically where Standiford and Miller meet. And Miller is just terrible. Like
This-
that whole street is just terrible.
The section between Forest and Main is scheduled for milling and paving. They've actually started doing some work out there. But I guess we can talk to Public Works about where
About
you are near
Miller, yeah,
Miller
Miller and
and take a
Standiford
look at
meet.
that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. It's 169 Standiford Avenue. Thank you.
We have one comment online, and then we'll get to you, Ms. Robinson. Taylor, can you hear us?
Hi, yes. Taylor Bernowski, 71 Pulaski Ave.
You may continue.
Okay, great, thank you. So there's two ordinances in this town, 478-19 and 637-99, where it states that campaign signs are not to be displayed more than 30 days prior to Election Day and then must be down 3 days after Election Day. This year, Election Day falls on November 7th. 30 days before then is October 8th, which is the Sunday before Columbus Day. This weekend, I noticed numerous homeowners with campaign signs on their front lawn. I submitted various requests on the citizen portal, and I also emailed over to code enforcement. I'm not sure why they are up early and how this can be enforced throughout town. I mean, we do have ordinances for a reason, but there are, a plethora of signs throughout town. So I wanted to see if this was something that maybe needs to go to the GOP chairwoman, Karen Bailey Bieber, or I'm not sure. So I wanted to see what the response was there. I know even Councilwoman Roberts had a sign on her front lawn. I did notice it was taken down after my email today, but I just wanted to make sure that even like political candidates do know the time rule there on the 30 days prior to election day.
You know, I'll if anything, I'll let our business administrator make a comment on this right now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have code enforcement go out and advise the people that they're in violation of the ordinance and ask them to remove the signs.
I do think there was some misinterpretation on different people. For example, it doesn't state explicitly in the ordinance about private property, and the elections have changed. I think we should reevaluate how that ordinance is written, because we've already unlocked the ballot boxes. There is early voting. We should coincide with that. And I think what we need to do is review the ordinance to align with the new election rules and address private property versus public property. Would anyone, can I make a motion that we amend the ordinance to address these new events, new requirements?
I'd be on board with that.
I agree with Councilman Roberts as far as the election is no longer in November. The election actually started at Monday of this week, so I have no problem with that. And I've always, I understood the ordinance to say all election signs, all political signs, so I was aware that it shouldn't be on the private property as well as the big 4x4s. Some people understood it to be just the big 4x4s that are usually somewhere along a roadway and stuff. I always felt that was a little harsh, but I followed it because that's what it said. So I have no problem changing that either, quite frankly, because I didn't think that that was fair to start with. Unfortunately, it's not going to change for this year.
For this year, no.
It takes at least, it'll take a meeting to get this written, then we have to have first reading, and then we have to have second reading, and probably the election would be over before then.
And I think we should just do it now because the elections have changed, the cadence, the early voting. I think it needs to be addressed.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I make a motion to authorize the attorney to make changes to that ordinance.
second. Okay. No objections. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the current comment?
Move the public portion be closed.
No, I'm sorry. What's her name? Was it Taylor? Sorry.
Yeah, so
Taylor,
I just
anything-
wanted to clarify here that the ordinance is not changing for this election cycle. Going forward, if process goes through, it would change for next election cycle, but the ordinance holds for this current November 7th cycle, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, seems so.
Okay.
Maybe our attorney can speak more on it.
I mean, I can just, excuse me, I apologize about that. I'm not really sitting here in a position to give you my full-on legal opinion as to the interpretation of this ordinance. However, if you do read the plain language of it, it simply says that it's prior to 30 days before any general, primary, or school board or special election. I think Councilwoman Roberts had a good point that the landscape of elections have changed. You can certainly make the argument that the election's ongoing right now because you can cast your ballots via mail-in and early voting. So with that said, I don't really know. I'd have to look further into this side. I don't feel comfortable rendering a legal opinion one way or the other, especially with regard to code enforcement on this. But it is noted, and I will prepare the ordinance as requested by the council. And if in the interim, I can look into this issue in advance of the next meeting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll look into that before we send code enforcement out there. Any additional comments, Taylor?
No, that is all.
I appreciate your time. I think next comment, Mr. Rob, or, yep, feel free, sir. Open your mind, Mr. Robinson.
Good evening. My name is Dariusz Demianchuk from 23 Ilner Street, sharing basically same concerns with the floodings as my neighbors did. So and I'm here to ask for help from the city to solve our problems because it's been ongoing problems for many, many years. I own the property for 15 years and it gets flooded every year, at least couple few times. So it's a really concern. One thing I noticed, I drove through Ulner Street many times during heavy rain, and that street turns into river. It's a Ulner River, not Ulner Street when it rains. And I also drove through Scott Street, and there is never accumulation of water out there. And as my neighbor said, there is 11 drains, storm drains on that street in the same length. I believe there was a reason to install 11 drains there. And I believe there is also need for more drains on our street there. So if that could be taken into consideration, please. And that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Rob.
Next comment, Mr. Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. First, I want to thank you for allowing most of those folks to exceed the 5-minute time limit, because what they talked about was really important. It's important to them, important to their town, so I appreciate that. I also want to thank Tina Early from JCP&L. I appreciate that the mayor asked her to come to a meeting a while ago. She and I have exchanged a lot of correspondence since she first came. She updates me on things. Because of the storm, a lot of stuff wasn't done Monday, Tuesday, might not be done tomorrow, but they are working on it. Now, since I first commented on that and people have heard that, I can't tell you how many notes I've gotten from folks that I don't know, in fact, about the lights at Kennedy Park. Those lights, some of them are owned by the borough and are our responsibility. Some of those are owned by JCP&L. I was involved with the lights, so that if you preambulate the lake, those lights around the lake, those are owned by the borough. We pay for them by JCP&L. And maintenance is their responsibility. That was done during the McCormick administration, so we didn't have to upfront the cost. So that has to be done. I would thank you all for the long-awaited SARA ordinance. I thank you for incorporating my suggestion about educational requirements and residency. I appreciate that very much. I do want to talk about, let me ask an update on the appraisal for that property by Sherwood. Are we working on that?
That was assigned to the Open Space Committee. I haven't gotten a feedback from them with regard to that.
Well, can the Open Space Committee order an appraisal? Yes. Yeah, well, it was referred to as the Sherwood property at previous meetings. So what? At the last meeting, you talked about referring it to Joe Kupch, and he hadn't heard about that up until a couple of days before. It's been a while. I just want to make sure that that doesn't fall through the cracks.
We had our first meeting just the other day.
Okay.
And we did tell Joe that piece of property was actually already on the list.
Yes, it's on the priority list. I know that.
And in the past, they have not wanted to sell to us, but Joe was authorized and he said he would go and make another attempt to see if they would sell it to us.
Okay. And if that fails, we're going to get an appraisal? Well, you need even if they're going to sell it to us, we need an appraisal. So does that, does that require council action?
Well, they basically already told, you know.
Okay. I just
In
want to
my
make sure
recollection,
that
the council authorized him to move forward with the necessary.
Okay, I want to make sure that doesn't fall through the cracks because so many, we haven't purchased any open space. We've got $11-12 million. It purchased except for the 4.1 acres behind Kennedy Park. I'm glad you mentioned that because at the last meeting, I didn't catch it while I was here. I went home and I listened to the tape and Councilwoman Roberts said we paid $4 million for that. We paid $1.4 million. There's a big difference. It's a difference of about $3.6 million. So I just didn't want people to be misled by that comment. We paid $1.4 million for those 4 acres. At the last meeting, Mr. Mealy from Kreml Crow was here. Trammell Crow is here, and he told me that he had gone to the Sarah meeting on March 23rd and discussed the road connection. So I went home and I went on to the borough's website to look at the minutes and the video of the March 23rd Sarah meeting. Neither were there. I sent an email, and a few days later, the minutes were posted, and I looked at them, I glanced at them. I went back to look at them today in preparation for tonight's meeting, and they are gone. I don't think the video was ever posted, and the minutes are gone, and apparently we only keep things posted for 6 months. They're there. I didn't see them. I went back to March. Maybe I missed it. But I looked this. Okay, well, I'd appreciate it if somebody checked on that and you would check on the video. I did send an email about that video, and I said, I do appreciate that the minutes were there. I'm sorry? I sent it to Sarah, and I probably sent it to the business administrator, who might have been away.
You did, and as a matter of fact, the minutes did go up that day. I don't know what happened to the video.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I wasn't able to find the minutes today. Maybe they're there. I didn't find them. I did find them that day. At the last meeting, I asked if folks had read the Palando indictment, and in particular, how it referenced a zoning issue. And if we had talked to anybody internally about that zoning issue. And the borough attorney, Sean, said, there's an investigation. We can't talk to somebody about an investigation. Well, I'm sure you probably all read the Menendez indictment. And in the Menendez indictment, it said that he had reached out to somebody in the AG's office when Graywall was the AG and tried to influence them on something. Well, Matt Platkin immediately opened an independent internal probe of Melendez's dealings with the AG's office. So if the AG found that somebody tried to influence an employee under his supervision or their office's supervision, and he could go take a look at that and investigate that, I'm not so sure that we can. And I raise this because there was a comment about commercial vehicles, and that's what was in the indictment. A comment about commercial vehicles, and we still apparently have not talked to anybody who's supposed to be enforcing those ordinances. So I think that we ought to take another look at that.
Pushing up
And-
against the 5 minutes. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
You're just pushing up against the 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I have one more comment, then I'll come back for my entire 5 minutes. With respect to the comment about lights that Mr. Conti made, I understand that. I understand why people are concerned about traffic. Traffic lights create more traffic on the main road. I understand that might help you get out of your road, but we really ought to look at this comprehensively. And if we look at this comprehensively, we might do what we have to do to get the Main Street bypass built. That was stalled under a previous mayor. We got $10 million from the DOT for that. That went nowhere because there was local opposition. And I think we have to take a look at that and resurrect that. And one other thing before I sit down, we're talking about signs. I don't think people are going to hear the comments that we want to lengthen the amount of time signs can be up there and jump up and down and say, oh, that's great. If we're going to look at the sign ordinance, and we should reevaluate ordinances periodically. Look at it comprehensively. Don't just say they can be there longer. Say they, you talked about private property versus public property. Almost all property is private property. We just go stick signs up all over the place, sometimes in sight triangles, sometimes in front of other signs. Sometimes you have that what they used to call the Burma shave, where they put the signs in a row. If we're going to look at that, let's study that. Let's maybe ask the planning board to take a look at it because it's a land use thing and address it comprehensively, because we don't need more signs and we don't need signs up longer. So I appreciate the suggestion that we ought to address it, but let's do it comprehensively and make sure that we don't end up with something that we don't really want, okay? And I'll come back a little bit later. Thank you.
Just Mr. Robinson,
sir.
with regard to the Main Street bypass, we've been working about 4, almost 5 months now on a grant application, attempting to get that project funded. We are permitted, we're designed, we just lack the funding, and we're trying to get federal dollars.
Okay, I appreciate that because when the plug was pulled on that years ago,
And from
that
our,
had a devastating impact on the borough, and that was to accommodate some folks for political reasons, was not a good thing, and the borough has suffered because of that. Thank you.
and Mr. Robinson, from my understanding, the minutes you're referring to are on the website.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Glenn, so Main Street bypass, because I know somebody had mentioned that to me earlier this week, and I know, Mary, you had said something about it. Is that something that is an active discussion? I know you talked about it, but just started to hear about it. Is it something that applying for a grant? I mean, that's unless you get $10 million in the grant, I guess may not go anywhere, but so what can you tell us about that? Because I know residents were concerned about it, about where it's going to go and what it's going to take away, et cetera. But is it something that is really going to happen, or is it just a topic of conversation?
Well, I mean, I can't look at my crystal ball and say we will get a grant, but there are some substantial transportation-related infrastructure grant opportunities coming up. Our grant writer feels that we will be in a very good position because we are shovel-ready. We've been having very intense discussions, again, over the last 4 to 5 months. Jay's been involved providing a lot of data, and we have high hopes that we're going to get the grant. It remains to be seen, but we're putting ourselves in the best position for success in that endeavor, and we'll report back if we have success. But I mean, this has been probably at least 20 years in the making, and it's critical that we get it done. It's just a matter of finding the funding to make it happen.
Well, for the longest time, we required grants from the Army Corps of Engineers, correct? Or the DOT, whatever.
You needed permits from the Army Corps, yes.
The Army Corps, and there's a lot of wetlands out there.
Correct, yes.
Like trying to, you had to give your left arm and your firstborn child in a pint of blood. It took years to get that.
Correct.
Now, one section is actually complete. Am I correct? Section 1? Where we started
No,
it?
you have pieces that are complete from River Road to the end of the Neptune property over by Sheffield Town. The intention of this first phase of the project is connect everything together. So you'll be able to go from Main Street all the way past Sheffield Town and come out on Kimball Drive East. So that's the limit of the first phase. That's where you have the permits for.
Okay, but then eventually, it should take us all the way out.
Eventually across Birch Creek to Crossman, then eventually into the Riverton project.
Yeah, I mean, when I hear things, it's been a 20-year project, sometimes I tend to think that maybe it's never going to get done. So as much as I think that probably is a solution, although upsetting to some residents about that solution, short of that, and it sounds like there's a lot that needs to happen for it to occur. That's why I say traffic signals, because go be a resident in those developments and try and get out of that development. It's impossible. And I think that we need something. We need something for those folks because there's a lot of them back there, and I think they need help. So that's why I say that. But
I can tell you, it took so long to get the light at Main Street. And I can't tell you the number of accidents that I picked people up in the ambulance with right at that intersection, and fatal accidents on that curve right past there.
Yeah.
I know that part of the warehouse plan is to put another light. Is it 2 or just 1 by Kimball Drive East or West?
There's definitely going to be one at Kimball Drive East. If the warrants are met, then they'll be able to put one at Kimball Drive West. The county doesn't agree the warrants are met at this time, but there's different phasing where they've got to do warrant analysis as the buildings are constructed. So hopefully they'll be met.
There will definitely be one.
Definitely be one.
So we got Crossman, Kimball Drive East, White Oaks Drive.
okay. All right, so it's a start at least. So that's something. And it'll continue on from there, I guess, to see if it's warranted. Okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
I think Mr. Ken, or how we,
Mr. Duffy?
Mr. Duffy, or if you don't mind, ma'am. Okay. Thank you. I'm grateful. Well, Mr. Duffy.
Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue, just to help Mr. Conti out. Jay, what, off the top of your head, what's the cost of a traffic light?
Depending on
Today.
what's involved, $500,000.
Mr. Robinson and us spoke about the planning board using the escrow money that they have put aside. We can hire a professional traffic expert to tell you where to put the traffic lights, not residents. So the flow of traffic will go and come instead of being good at one side and bad on another side. And I think if you have time, I don't know what your occupation is, go underneath the Bordentown Avenue Route 9 intersection, going north and see how it's backing up now. You get one track,
That's for sure.
you get one tractor trailer going up that way. Takes him over 25 minutes because he has to go 3 lanes out. So his back end of the trailer gets around. And they're coming down 70 miles an hour from Ernston Road. So
There's a few trouble spots.
I just figured I'd let you know. Let's get the expert involved. It won't cost us anything. Use the escrow money that these planners do for the
What I hear
condos.
about is money, we've got money here, we got money here, we got it there. We got to put it to good use.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Lady over here.
I think thank you, Mr. Ken. We'll get to you next.
Hi, Allison Hornbeck, 7 Driftwood. First of all, thank you for doing the forensic accounting for the Sarah. And it said in the statement, and other boards deemed necessary. So who makes that determination? What is necessary?
It was designed as though it's going to be a forensic audit. Well, what comes up in that forensic audit, that flag.
Okay.
Department in which they.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know that your mic is on.
Microphone on, Sal?
Yes, sorry about that. So my understanding is that the way that it was crafted is that this forensic auditor and who's going to be doing the investigation will conduct their investigation. And then during the course of that investigation, if it turns out that they deem it necessary to investigate further into other departments, but based on information they gather in their Sarah investigation, that's how it will be determined where it goes. This auditor and investigator is independent. That's the reason why they were brought in. It's somebody that doesn't have a connection to the town or to the borough. So, they're coming with a clean slate, fresh set of eyes.
Okay. Well, could I just suggest that somebody say, can you also look into Sayreville AA since, Mr. Palando was
No,
also
that would be a
involved?
separate, we would have to authorize a separate investigation into a specific department. But however, that doesn't mean that what you're saying couldn't fall under the purview of the investigation that this person.
No, it's a separate organization,
But what was the organization?
5013C.
Well, if it's a
Part of the borough.
private or a public organization, that's
Oh,
not
'cause they're
associated with the
under-
borough,
they're
then.
under the, if I go and look in the Sayreville website, they're under the Sayreville Recreation Department.
I'm being told they're a municipal sponsored organization.
But wouldn't then that
5013C.
fall under the municipal?
No, I don't believe it
Guidelines?
would. I think that they're based on, and I don't know what the organization is. I apologize. This is the first I'm hearing of this organization, but if they're a 501c3 organization, I would imagine that they have their own, they have their own board, they have their own processes that they follow, that they have to keep up with. And not to mention 501c3s have a rigorous compliance with the IRS. So, they're constantly having to report and make sure that they're in compliance with all 501c3 laws to maintain that nonprofit status.
And I would say that being a representative from Sayreville Athletic Association, I'd be more than willing and happy to speak with anybody that comes to town to investigate the matter. So I'd be, share anything that they need to know if it comes that way, or just to voluntarily do that. Because as Sal's saying, yeah, it's a rigorous process. Everything's a public record with the IRS. So it's there, the tax information is there. But if it got to that point, then I would certainly be able to speak with anybody, volunteer that information and talk with them, show them whatever they need to say. Because although his name was there, I would say that I've been the one who's been monitoring the books there for a while now. And so I know the most about the books.
Yeah, because I did see where it said going back all the way to 2012. Have you been?
Well, yeah,
there
no,
since 2012?
no,
Right.
not that,
So
not that far, not that far, but I can help as much as
Yeah.
I can.
I just saw it under the guise of the town. So I thought, okay, so it's a town sponsored thing, you know. I
Yeah,
don't know
and I
why-
know they were looking, I know there were, I know the town could probably help with dollars paid to the association. Because the borough does reimburse them for certain things. And they should have a record going back that far, so we can see, what they've paid to the association and what it was for, what those dollars look like. So there's something that we could piece together back to that date. You know, I can help with the more recent.
So in essence, then you agree, then we probably should extend the investigate, or at least the audit to the
No.
Recreation Department.
No, I don't think so.
I think we probably should. I think you raise a really good thing. I think that you're talking about a number of years and a lot of access, particularly to sports programs that are connected to
Right,
what
they
the
generate a
borough
lot
was
of
doing.
dollars.
I think there's a lot
I
of
know they
dollars
don't
and it's
mind.
taxpayer dollars. So
Yeah.
I think it makes sense. And if the AA is willing to assist, I think that's great because it probably will be less expensive
I
and
could,
probably.
I'm sure I could
comprehensive.
save us on the massive expenditure. So we'll see what happens. We'll see as it develops. I certainly will speak to those individuals and see how I can help.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it was more than he was just on Sarah. So, you know, it's a bigger, wider thing. Second thing is, the last meeting I had to watch online, but I believe, Mr. Sarzinski, did you say that the Phoenix report was complete and they made their assessment for the whole Trammell Crow?
Yes, and it's been forwarded to the council for their.
Okay, so the council, so is that information public?
Not yet, because it's still subject to further negotiation. So if the council decides to move forward with that pilot, it will become public information. There'll be an introduction and there will be a public hearing. If the council tells us we don't want to engage this any further, we're done with it. And if they want us to go back to the bargaining table, we'll do that. So it's in their hands now into terms of what direction that's going to go in.
So how long is it in your hands for on people on the council? Like, do you have a set, you know, okay, give us 4 months, give us 3 months, we're gonna make our determination. Is there a set time? So,
Yeah, I mean, if it's the council's desire, we can go into executive at the next meeting and discuss it, and they can make a determination in what direction they want to go in.
but everybody has that report and has, I mean, maybe you haven't had a chance to look at the numbers yet, but you've all gotten it? Okay. Well, but I mean, that's progress. So it's a good thing.
Mhm.
So, okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Ken?
Thank you, Council President. Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. At the last meeting, there was a representative here from Trammell Crow, and I believe they talked about the warehouses, or at least some of them, being ready to open by the end of the year. Is that correct? Did I hear that right? I don't want to, I'll be chastised if I start talking to people in the audience, so would somebody do that on
He
that?
he did on his head, though.
He's indicating yes.
Yes. Okay, which prompted my question, where do we stand on the improvements in the intersection of Cheesequake and Bordentown. I know we talked about it briefly, but I couldn't hear it in the back. And could I get a little more detail on that, please?
Do you mind if, Jay, you comment on this, if possible?
They were scheduling the work. They had a pre-construction meeting recently. The materials, I think they were waiting to be delivered, so it's supposed to start anytime. I don't have a specific date, but it's ready to be constructed.
And how long will that, we have an estimate of how long that will take to complete?
Once they have the materials, I think they're looking at a month. I don't think it's a very long time frame.
So that improvement will be done before the warehouse is open?
I can't speak to that. I don't know what the schedule is for the opening, but I think that's the intention, is to have it done before they're open.
I would hope so. And by the way, who pays for that improvement? What's the cost of, I don't want the cost. I want to know what's the percentage, who pays what?
100% developer.
It's paid by the developer. Okay, thank you. Along with that, I have been talking now at this microphone for 4 or 5 years about the intersection of Bordentown and Journey Mill Road, and coming east on Bordentown to make the left onto Journey Mill, the fact that we should have an arrow. I think many people here agreed with me. As I recall, Jay talked about something to do with the county on that. And when we talked about the improvements to Cheesequake and Bordentown, I brought it up, and the mayor said at that time it should be incorporated into the improvements of the arrow at Journey Mill to or Bordentown to Journey Mill. Where does that stand at the present time?
Well, Journey Mill and Bordentown are county roads. The county, I think the last time you asked, I gave you the same answer. They have an improvement project that is currently being designed and acquiring property before it can go to construction. So it is an intersection improvement that will have the lead left arrows that you're referring to. That's part of the plan, but it's in the county's hands. I don't have a time frame as to when it's going to be done.
Well, I just wanted to say, I think I started talking about this 5 years ago. You know, so I've heard that song before, and in the meantime, I just hope somebody doesn't get seriously injured or killed. I think everybody knows the amount of traffic that there is on Bordentown Avenue. And if there's any place needs an arrow, it's there. We've got an arrow on Washington Road into South Pulaski Avenue. So can anybody compare these things and say, maybe we should light a fire under the county? Do we need more than Jay? Do we need some political people to get involved with the county? I think it's long past the time that we look at that and get it taken care of as a matter of public safety. And I hope the injury or the life I save, it can be more than just my own. So I'm asking that, you know, somebody do, I don't want to be coming here 5 years from now and hearing the same story. We ought to get some priority in the county. We get priority on other things that we don't necessarily need. So I hope somebody is going to follow up on that and do something about it.
Jake, can we follow up and see where we are on the timeline, where they are?
For time frame, but just understand, it's not putting a lead left arrow. It's a full-blown intersection improvement with new signalization, widening, property acquisition, and everything else.
And what does that involve? How much is involved in doing that, Jay? Can you have any idea?
It's property acquisition, it's
Yeah, I mean,
wetlands.
how much property are we looking to acquire? What are we looking to do there? We trying to,
It's road widening, it's full-blown intersection improvement, new signalization on all, it's not just a left-hand signal on one of the existing poles, all new signals, all new wiring, property acquisition, road widening, curb drainage, all those improvements.
as I say, I've been talking about this for 5 years now, so hopefully something will happen on it. I got here a little late. Somebody talked about a rep from Jersey Central being here. I know somebody was here a month or two ago and talked about the streetlights, and I'm hearing more and more and reading about and counting the number of streetlights out in town. Was there any progress made on that?
He said that they have made progress on certain streets. but that it was stopped temporarily because they had, all of their people were preparing for, with the hurricane or the storm or the cyclone, whatever it was called. And they're only getting back to doing their regular stuff. I think it's tomorrow.
But apparently it's been going on for a long time at people. And of course, now I'm more aware of it. I ride down Ernst Road and Washington Road and say, 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, it's a new game, counting the streetlights out. My next question on these streetlights.
Mr. Olszewski, you're pushing up on the 5 minutes.
Okay, let
Thank
me
you.
finish this up and I'll be back again like Mr. Robinson after we get completed. Who is paying for these streetlights? How are these streetlights paid for? We get a bill for the
We pay a
streetlights?
monthly bill. We pay whether or not the lights are working. It's a flat fee for the amount of lights. I actually had a conversation with the borough attorney this week about a mechanism by which if we don't have satisfactory progress where we can put the money in escrow until such time as the service is being promised or delivered.
Well, I think if we have a flat fee for the lights, that whether they're working or not, maybe we ought to take a sample of how many lights are out. My concern is as a taxpayer that we're paying for a service that we're not getting. And we got enough headlines in Saraville and up in Menendez and et cetera, that we don't need more headlines on the borough is spending money that they shouldn't be. That is illegal. So I think we ought to look into this. I think we ought to get, I've talked about this before, we ought to get our senator who has to sign off. He has to sign off on any appointments the governor makes to the BPU. And we ought to get them involved. If this is a continuing problem, let's get Senator Vitale involved. And we can, matter of fact, we can get our representative in the assembly, but bring them in here so we can get something done on it. I ask you that. I'll be back next week and they ask how we're doing on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'm not an expert on the budget, but I think last year we paid $511,000 for streetlights, for the electricity for streetlights. If 20% of them are out, that's $100,000. You know, if you're making big bucks, that's not a big deal, but to some of us, $100,000 is a lot of money. So I think we have to do something, not just to get the lights fixed. And I appreciate that they're working on that, but there is a monetary component. I understand. I don't know if this is true. I haven't verified it. I just got a message while I was sitting here that the school board awarded a contract for the bus depot. I don't know if that was for the design. I don't know if that is for construction. I don't know exactly what it was. Does anybody know the status of that? Do we have a formal agreement with them? Have they appeared before the planning board? Do we yet know how many trees? I heard a figure from a school board member that they were going to take down, the cost to remove trees was about $750,000. Now, $750,000 to remove trees when there are other areas where this bus depot could have gone seems like a lot of money. So what is the status on, and have they gone before the planning board, which they're required to do under the municipal land use ordinance? Anybody want to?
Jay, are there any upcoming applications regarding the school
They
board
have
to
not
the
appeared
planning
before
board?
the planning board.
Well, I think both the council, if I may interrupt, the
Yeah.
council and the planning board.
I think a few months ago, they did agree that they'll be willing.
That's right.
Right.
And I think what they, sometimes Dr. Labby can be cute. I think he might have said if we're invited. Well, the law doesn't require them to be invited, but I would suggest that there be some communication with them. Their obligation is to come here so that the public can see the plans, so the public can know what the environmental impact is, so the public can know if there are going to be gas tanks. He said there weren't going to be, are there? And and when this was approved, I gave Dr. Labby the Trammell Crow traffic report so that he knows how many tractor trailers are leaving the Arsenal warehouse at their peak period, which is coincidentally right around the time that school buses go on to Cheesequake Road. So I think a little bit more thought has to go into this. And Mr. Administrator, do you know about any of these things?
This is the first I'm hearing about the contract being awarded.
And I haven't verified that.
Yeah, and I can tell you that the last conversation I had with Ms. Hill, their administrator, we were still waiting for them to provide us with meets and bounds so we could prepare the lease agreement. And that's not, have you received that yet?
No.
No, we've still not received that. So, I mean, they could award whatever contract they want. We still do not have an executed lease agreement with them for the property. And
They
I-
have no right to use that property or to be on
No,
that property.
no, we've not, the council has not authorized that yet because we've not been given the required information.
And under the municipal land use law, they don't have the right to spend any money until they go before the planning board for capital review. And, you know, they put in a parking lot at the upper elementary school. I don't know if they went before the planning board. I didn't hear about a public hearing there. They put in solar and I support the solar. But all of these things have ramifications and that's why they're supposed to go before the planning board for recommendation.
They did acknowledge their obligation to come to the board, but they have not yet, to my knowledge.
Well.
And like I said, whatever they've got going on the Board of Education, and they're not in a position where they can move on a project till this council authorizes the
All right,
lease.
well, I think there ought to be some communication and they ought to be made to comply with the law. It's not Dr. Labby's money, it's our money that's being spent there. And we want to make sure that it's spent properly. I appreciate that somebody asked a question about the Phoenix Advisor report for the Tremble Crow. I had put in an Oprah report for some of that information and all of the reports I have asked for on the Phoenix Advisors or the Tremble Crow have been denied. And I was told that the borough attorney would give me information on it tomorrow, the day after tonight's meeting. I understand it might be part of negotiation. So, okay, I will accept that. But it is an important thing based on the figures that I saw that that the business administrator gave to somebody. It amounts to approximately a $10 million tax giveaway. Now, I don't know if those figures are right. I talked to the tax assessor. He doesn't necessarily agree with those figures and they didn't necessarily come from his office. So I don't know where they came from. Has the tax assessor?
Pushing up on that 5 again. Thank you.
Thank you. Has the tax assessor, I appreciate that more than you know. Has the tax assessor seen that report from Phoenix Advisors?
No, he is not yet.
Why? Now, I know at the last meeting, Glenn, you said you had the report and it hadn't been shared with the mayor and council. They subsequently got it. I think the tax assessor of all the people in the borough and all the people outside the borough that people might be talking to about this pilot, of all the people in the borough that ought to have input into a tax structure, the tax assessor might be one of those folks. So can the council ask that that report be shared with the tax assessor so that he can comment on that? Because I think his comment on a pilot on one of the biggest projects we've had, the biggest pilot we've ever even considered. I think the tax assessor's input would be invaluable. Would anybody disagree with that? Anybody disagree that the tax assessor should have that report? And we ought to have his input?
Mr. Robinson, I can say that as far as the document that you're speaking of, right now, it's a confidential document. It is under contract negotiation. So as I sit here tonight, I don't think that the council's in a
Well, I
position-
understand why I can't have it, or Allison can't have it, or members of the public can't have it because it's confidential. The tax assessor works for the borough. He is the person that should advise the governing body on matters of tax assessment.
While I do understand your concerns, just because someone is a employee of the borough does not automatically entitle them to be involved in confidential negotiations, especially of the document that you're speaking of.
We have Section 8s that involve personnel and all sorts of things, and the engineer and the treasurer and other folks go in there. But the tax assessor can't see a report on municipal taxation? I mean, does that make sense? Has anybody else in the borough seen that report besides you, Glenn, and the elected officials?
Not to my knowledge, I just sent it to the council.
But not to the tax assessor.
I can tell you that the tax assessor worked hand in glove with Phoenix because it was the tax assessor that had to provide his estimated tax assessment of the property in order to make that negotiation possible. So any of the data contained therein came from the tax.
Does anybody see a problem with sharing this document with the tax assessor? Does anybody not want the tax assessor's input on a pilot that involves taxation?
You know,
Is there a flaw in my logic? Is there something I'm missing?
Councilman
I
Balcony.
mean, if you
any
had a
comments so
report
far?
on security, you'd want the police chief involved. If you had a report on road, you'd want the road superintendent involved. If you have a report on taxes, why wouldn't you want the tax assessor involved? There just seems to me, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but there seems to be a lack of transparency with these things, not just externally, and I understand that, but even internally with people who are certified, who are subject matter experts, who have reputations throughout the state of New Jersey for their expertise and have guided this borough for, I don't know how long Joe's been there, probably 30 years. And I think everybody relies on, except somebody who's assessed for a shed in their backyard, but everybody else relies on his expertise and respects his opinion. I just, maybe I'm wrong, I'm just a layman, but it would seems to me if you're talking about tax policy and taxes, the tax assessor is the guy that ought to be involved. That's all. Thank
I
you.
appreciate your comment, Mr. Robinson. You know, for myself within the admin and finance, I think it's something worth the conversation between myself and Councilman Balca in due time.
There are certain figures in there we need to have verified by him. Like maybe we can give him a redacted version of
Well, I will say that during the Very Large Riverton pilot, we introduced it. We then took a look at that. I was on finance, administration and finance at the time, had some questions that I needed more time to answer. We delayed a second meeting. We introduced, we paused, got questions answered that we needed as a council. I did engage the tax assessor and had his questions addressed formally at a meeting. And then we went on to the regular proceedings. At this point, we haven't introduced anything to put on the table for him. And I do not want to have something that might be malleable because we didn't introduce it yet to spend a lot of time and effort on. So if we're ready to introduce, then I think we engage the professionals that we need. If we're not ready to introduce, there's a reason for that, and we can take the steps when it's the appropriate time. Would that make sense to anyone here? Because that is how it is laid out and how we've done it before, and the process does include and engage all professionals necessary.
I think at this point, at the request of admin and finance chair, a redacted version will be sent to the tax assessor. Thank you.
With the change in procedure like that, that was just a request?
Yeah, we just got a request from the admin and finance chair, so it's something the BA will work on. Do we have additional comments?
Before we do that, can I just have 1 second? I just want to test something. I'm having a bit of a glitch on this recording, so maybe just give me 1 moment.
Thank you.
So we've agreed to send a redacted version. Can we see the redacted version also so we know what he has received and what he has not?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go with Mr. Ken.
Once again, Ken Olszewski, 108 North Edward Street. I want to follow up on this Trammell Crow and the pilot. What's the time frame? How long do we have to resolve this issue? You know, originally I had heard from some people that the pilot was supposed to be resolved before construction started. Well, now we've heard from the gentleman at Trammell Crow, and let me just point out something here. I've known Trammell Crow for years, probably before this gentleman here, maybe when he was in grade school, because my company, an international company, dealt with Trammell Crow. So I know they're a fine company. They have a great reputation. They're international, just like the company I work for. So I'm not trying to cast any aspersions on Trammell Crow, but I am trying to find out from this council, how long do we have to resolve this pilot issue with Trammell Crow? Anybody?
As I sit here now,
You-
I don't know off the top of my head how long exactly it would take for the council to operate, to act on this, this pilot. It's
Does it
something-
have to be done before they start operating, before the trucks start rolling out of there?
I don't believe so, but again, I
Okay, so
don't feel confident
my
rendering a legal on
concern,
that.
I guess, maybe I'm cynical. Maybe I wasn't until I read the Menendez stuff, and not only the charges here, but the people that operated up there and the construction and Edgewater and stuff, and the things that went on. So maybe I'm a little cynical, but I'm concerned, are we going to carry this on until maybe a new, more favorable administration gets in next year? Is that where we're going to drag our feet? How long do we have to carry out this negotiations? It seems like it's not passing the smell test, ladies and gentlemen here. It seems like we ought to move on and get something done and have an answer. I mean, we're not trying to reinvent the world here. It's getting a little bit silly. So my real point is, how in the world long is it going to take to get a vote on Trammell Crow and the pilot? That's what I'm concerned about, and I hope you'll take it up and come up with an answer, because it's not passing the smell test. Something is sounding very fishy here. Okay, let me move on to another subject. Talking about the Main Street bypass and did we get $10 million? Was there a grant for $10 million back 20 plus years ago? And I remember this. I was involved on the council at the time. Did we get a grant of $10 million?
You were awarded a grant, but you did not receive $10 million.
We were awarded a grant. Do we know about, my question is, what happened to the money?
Because the project never moved forward, the borough never received the funding.
We never received any funding, and did any of it go in legal and other engineering fees, et cetera, et cetera?
No, I didn't say you didn't receive anything. You did not receive $10 million. You received, I think, approximately $4 million.
Oh, we got $4 million.
I
So
believe so.
did we do any road improvement with that over there on the bypass? Or did that all go for administrative costs like engineering fees and legal fees, et cetera?
I believe you have $2 million in the bank at the present time, and the balance was used for administrative permit acquisition, different costs.
So 4 minus 2, so it was $2 million used for those purposes.
Approximately.
Yeah, no, that's all I'm looking for. Okay, and my last, I'll pass on the next one until the next meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe we have a comment online. Maybe we can get to that if possible. Barry, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you, Council President. I understand.
If you can assist us with your name and address, please.
Oh, sure. Barry Muller, 5 Ryan Court, Harlan. I understand that the borough is going to be negotiating a lease with the Board of Ed for the new transportation complex. I would only ask that when you negotiate that lease, if you could include a provision in there that requires the Board of Ed to provide busing services for all of the residents of Sayreville. We who live within 2 miles of the middle school and the high school, it is a traffic nightmare trying to get our kids to school. I mean, you have both of the schools there, you've got the supermarket, you've got the intersection with Ernston Road and Bordentown with the overpass. Now we're going to have a transportation depot right near Laurel Park on Cheesequake. We're going to have probably 7 acres, cleared with displacement of wildlife. it is a nightmare trying to get our kids to school and to pick them up. And it's okay, 2 miles is the cutoff that our children are expected to walk to school. And that's okay now, but if you get these rainy days and the cold and whatnot, it's just not a good way for the kids to start out the school day. They have to get there so early anyway for the high school. School starts, I think it's 7 or 7:15, and they have to walk 2 miles. And if you have to do that with the elements and the weather, we have to drive them. And it's a nightmare, this whole area. And it's just, it's unfair for one segment of our town to have to bear this traffic burden. So I ask, when you're negotiating this lease, you have a lot of leverage with the Board of Ed. Could you please put a provision in there that requires them to provide busing services for all residents, including those within the 2-mile radius? Having those kids take the bus will improve the traffic on Washington Road. There'll be a lot less cars in the morning if there's busing services provided to all the residents. I thank the council for all of your hard work and everything you do and listening to the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you for taking the time to express those comments. Ultimately, I'm sure our attorney heard your comments, and we may not be able to speak too much on the budgets for the Board of Education, but again, I believe that your concerns fell on our ears. Thank you. Sorry, I think that's all the comments online. Ready for you, sir.
My name's Andrew Mealy. I'm with Trammell Crow Company. I'll be brief, but since I'm here and there were a few questions, I thought I could give some clarification real quick. The intersection, Bordentown and Cheesequake, I just want to make sure everyone knows, Mr. Cornell certainly knows, we agreed to everything that the county had asked for. Of course, Sayreville over a year and a half ago, and then spent the last year and a half trying to get a tri-party agreement between the county, Sayreville, and your neighbor. And I don't want to stir the pot here tonight, but it was absurd. And ultimately, it became an agreement between Sayreville, us, and the county, and the neighbor's no longer in it. So that's the reason it's not done. We wish it was done. We're waiting on JCP&L now to move 2 or 3 poles. And then once they do that, we can begin, and it should be about 2 months of work from when that commences. So, and by the way, that's about, we have a budget of about $900,000 for that intersection. So it's more than just, it's all new poles, new timing, moving some existing infrastructure by the new gas station, widening the road, making a wider right turn from Bordentown on Cheesequake. So it is involved, and it is a pretty significant piece of infrastructure investment. I would also point out the Cheesequake Minnesink road redo that is now basically done was a little over $2 million, $2.1 million was the cost of that. And then at the last meeting, the mayor brought up 2 things: signage, and we've already been in contact with Mr. Cornell's office with some spec signage that has the turnpike and some bigger signage as you exit the project to guide you, basically to the right and out to Bordentown and 9, and away you go. So that's already in progress. And then we also have been talking about the landscape and buffering the walls. Not a finished product yet. I remind everybody, up until 2 weeks ago, we had a drought going on. Now it seems like it doesn't stop raining. So there wasn't a lot of planning going on through August for obvious reasons. But even still, we're rethinking that, and really think the best way to do that would involve Bailey Park as a property that we don't control, that hopefully be a discussion for a different day. There is a ton of utility that happen right there at that wall, underground stuff that you can't just plant trees everywhere. There's gas, electric, storm sewer. So it is limiting, but if you could pull it back and maybe onto some of the Bailey Park property, that would have a great effect as well. So that's a work in progress. We'll continue on that. And then, last but not least on the pilot, I think I agree with these gentlemen. The sooner the better. We have absolutely nothing to hide in this process. The more transparency, the better. We believe it's good for the borough. If the borough decides it's not, then we won't have it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have any other comments from the public at this moment? Mr. Duffy?
Bob Duffy, 111 Merritt Avenue. On the street lights, I'm just going to throw this out. I know there's no answers to what I'm going to throw out, but just to think about it. Is there a contract with Jersey Central Power and Light with those street lights? I don't think anybody knows because it's been there a long time, right? If they're
Mr. Duffy, we can dig. It's probably written in gooseberry ink with a turkey quill. If we have it, we'll find it.
Okay.
I'm not gonna
I'm
promise
just
you.
gonna throw this out there. If we turn around, hire a company, fix the lights, and charge Jersey Central Power and Light. It's like back taxing somebody that is not paying their taxes. I don't know if that's a legal thing. If it's a general contract, I don't know when it was or what, but these are your citizens that are complaining about the lights. So hire a company, fix them, pay the 100,000, 200,000, and then tell Jersey Central Power Light, this is what you owe us. Maybe if you start that, they'll be fixing them. It's just a thought. Use the power of your power to get what you need done. Thank you.
I appreciate that comment, Mr. Duffy. Do you have any additional comments from the public? If not, let's get a motion.
Will the public portion be closed?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, at this moment,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you.
Second.
Aye.
5-minute break.
like to call to order this agenda session. If we all rise to salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We get a statement of publication? Sorry.
Take notice that this agenda meeting of the mayor and council being held this 26th day of September 2023 has been advertised and posted in accordance with Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975.
Roll call, please.
Councilpersons Balca. Conti.
Here.
Novak.
Here.
Enoha.
Here.
Roberts. Zabrowski.
For general discussion.
Yep. Authorization to issue change order number 3 for the 2021 heavy truck order to Hunter Jersey Peterbilt in the amount of $30,756 due to the model 348 trucks being discontinued and replaced with model 548. Authorization to purchase one Kenworth roll-off plow truck and one Kenworth rear loader garbage truck from Gabrielli Truck Sales through Sourcewell contract in an amount not to exceed $566,041.68. Authorization to award a contract to MRC Recreation for the furnishing and installation of playground equipment at Evelyn Street Park through ESCNJ contract in an amount not to exceed $67,028.54. Request received from residents of the Page Terrace neighborhood to close off the cul-de-sac from October 15th to October 24th from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. in observance of a religious event pending approval from the police department. Yes, I did send that in an email to all of you this afternoon.
Thank you.
And that's it for me.
Thank you. On to our business administrator.
We're backfilling still from retirement. So number 1 is authorization to promote Craig Fallon to Supervisor of Public Works effective November 1st.
Correct.
Authorization to promote Charles Wojciak to Supervisor of Public Works effective January 1st, 2024. Authorization to promote Rosie Caramella to Supervisor Billing and Collecting in the Water and Sewer Department effective December 1st. Authorization to promote Gwendolyn Knight to Clerk 3 in the Water and Sewer Department, and as of note, Gwendolyn is also our HUD coordinator, does a lot of work with that, effective December 1st. Due to some changes operationally and some shortcomings we've identified, we're looking for the council to authorize the same salary guard guide and add a title for supervising payroll and benefits clerk. Sorry. And then we had a internal opening, again, compelled by promotions. We had one internal applicant, so Department of Public Works, the cashier, tax department. I apologize, but I do have one add-on, email with regard to PFAS, which is one of those forever chemicals. It was forwarded to the board, to the borough attorney for his consultation, and it was his recommendation that we join the class action litigation in order to take advantage of that. There were 5 or 6 firms listed already progressing with class action litigation in that communication I sent to you. So I'm just asking, who do you want me to reach out to and engage with?
Again, it would be contingency basis. Yeah, the fee would be contingency. So you're not going to be, it's nothing out of your pockets as the borough. They incur the cost, and then if there's a settlement, they would get it.
Yeah, there's going to be billions of dollars. There's already billions of
Already,
dollars
yes.
awarded, and ultimately, this situation is going to cause us to have to make some retrofitting to our water treatment process and whatnot. So to be in a position to get that money and not have to do it on the back of the taxpayers would be a very desirable outcome.
Willens is a firm that we've dealt with quite a bit, so everybody's okay with that. They're already involved in it.
Lance Goldman and Spitzer.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Hey, Glenn, while we're on your report, and I don't want to add to all the work that you currently have, but this pertains to Board of Ed and Board of Ed Transportation, and it has nothing to do with the depot, but the residents down in School Drive are continuing to put up with a lot of bus traffic that I think wasn't originally intended from the plan, from how they do it. But now that they have 45 plus buses, a lot of them are utilizing School Drive as a cut through. It really depletes the quality of life for those residents there. I don't know if we can have a meeting or something else, but at least the transportation coordinator can be notified of this issue because they should be really exiting out. Right exit.
John, I fully agree with you, and we've had conversations to that effect with them. And as well, clearly it's not borne any fruit to the extent that I had actually asked them to restore that gate that was there since time immemorial. And they seem very reluctant to do that. I mean, that's something I think that as the governing body, you can order me to do to put that gate back up and maybe open it at appropriate times of the day. But I will continue, I'll engage her again tomorrow and see if I can't get any headway. But logically, having all of the traffic exiting to Washington, and we have police control there in the afternoon, which makes it, I agree with you. So I'll take a run at it tomorrow, but I've only got so much.
I'd hate to take the extreme, but because there's only half a gate there at this point, the other gate, part of the gate has been, I guess, out of disuse is gone. But I mean, rather than take a start, I'd like to get some collaboration and cooperation.
I'll make another run at it, but I can't promise anything. But I'll take a run at it tomorrow again.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Skarzinski. Anything from our CFO? Thank you, ma'am. And on to our borough engineer.
Thank you. Just one item this evening. We're receiving bids next week for the next phase of your road project. That includes Gordon Avenue, Little Broadway, Oak Street, the dead end portion, and Surrey Lane. So if everything's in order, we'd like a resolution warning a contract at your following meeting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And on to our attorney, if anything.
Council President.
Thank you. Any need for executive session? We'd like to take a moment to open up to the public for any additional questions or comments. If online, seeing that there's none.
I move to close the public portion.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Favor, aye.
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 Motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
One piece, everyone. Thank you.
You with the record.